What's up, hockey heads? It's your buddy Choppadong. I am coming at you with another episode of DFS Diary, whatever you want to call it. We're going to talk a little bit of hockey, go through a player pool today. I want to show you something because a lot of times I haven't been doing a lot of videos lately the past few days because I've been caught up doing some writing, helping out where we're a little bit shorthanded. And I just want to show you the easiest way to break down a hockey slate. I'll show it to you guys. I'll show it to my VIPs, whatever. Have a couple of sneaky calls sitting in there for the VIPs. But I'll show you guys the chalk calls in today's slate. It's different than yesterday's slate. Yesterday's slate was wide open with a ton of great options. You know, Chicago's running hot, Tampa Bay, Toronto, all in great spots. Today is a little bit different because Toronto plays New York Islanders, and the Islanders have played great defense lately, only allowing, 2.1 goals against in their last 10. And Tampa Bay goes up against Boston, and Boston's no picnic either. Boston's only allowed 2.2 in their last 10 against. And you got both Toronto and Tampa Bay coming off back-to-backs. That's a tough sled for those guys to run with, man. And they're still pulling okay matchups on the slate tonight, but not as good as they have been lately. So that suppresses their expectations some, which thereby either squashes them down into the middle of the pack or elevates other people's matchups accordingly, whatever it is. Let's dive in and let's show you a little bit of what I'm talking about. If you haven't followed along, the breakaway is the slate breakdown for hockey, just quickly showing you the matchups, which I'll walk through in a minute, and then the game by game stuff, a little bit about the game, a little bit about maybe some names, maybe just kind of how I feel about the game using some of the Vegas odds and using this matchup score a little bit. And then I'm going to run through 5-star plays, 4-star plays, who's safe for cash games, and maybe a sleeper or two if I can see them. This is just designed to get you started in the right direction so that you can go digging deeper. You'll either agree with me or you won't. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. Doesn't matter to me. The easiest way to get access to this is obviously to become a VIP at dfsarmy.com. Go down to the comments section, click the link, use code CHOP, CHOP, trigger that 20% off discount every single week or every single month. Obviously, like, subscribe the videos, hit the notification bell, and trigger all of this stuff. That's a great way to stay in touch with me. Follow me out on Twitter. That's another really, really solid way to stay in touch with me because I'm doing this when I'm asking for retweets and people retweet. I'm entering all of those names in my March sweeps giveaway, and I'm going to do it every month. March sweeps. We're getting ready to draw here in another, day? I guess tomorrow, tonight or tomorrow, we draw for March sweeps. So I got to get those last 16 to 20 guys in. And you guys are going to be eligible for me to buy your 1 month membership into dfsarmy.com. It's that simple. I'm just trying to give back a little bit. People are helping me. I want to help them back. And so I want to give away 2 or 3 or 4, but the more I grow, the more results I get for a month, the more spots I will unlock. So the more you help me, the more chances you get towards becoming a member and me buying. If you're already a member, I'll buy it. I don't care. I'll reimburse you for your current month. It's just my thank you to you guys. So that's the easiest way to get access. Another way, of course, is following us out here on Twitter and YouTube, of course. Let's look quickly at some of the starting lineups because one of the things that I will do is I will look when our research station's not up yet. Our guy works nights, so sometimes I have to wait a little while for the morning, and I want to get the content out to you guys early. So I'm looking for Vegas odds, and I'm looking for big game, which those aren't up yet. So in that case, I go to VegasInsider.com. It's just my favorite place to go. And I'll come down here to the NHL section, the Vegas odds, and I'll get them this way. I'm going to look at what the line opened at and what the consensus is from the sports books. And I'm going to see Toronto's 5.5 leaning on the over. If you don't know what that 0.25 means, it means this is a minus 110, kind of a pick'em game, but it's a minus 125 on the over, meaning more people are betting the over. Vegas favors the over, meaning that this game should theoretically hit the over. This one should hit the under. And it's, 20 to 25 is pretty strong. A lot of times you see a 10. That's like a 50-50. 5.5 is about the number. Sometimes you'll see a number like this. The consensus is a minus 45 on the under. That is so strong, I expect that line to go down to a 5. If it doesn't go down to a 5, this game, public is saying, Vegas, you're wrong. This thing's going under, under, under. That means this is not a good opportunity for DFS. We want him hitting overs. We want him getting 6.5, 7 goals. Total for the game across both sides. We don't want them scrapping and fighting over 2 goals each. That's not as unless you hit those goals perfectly, it's not good for DFS. The odds are better in the higher scoring games. That's why we focus on those, and this is one way to determine that. Another thing that I'll do in here is I will pay attention to my correlations. You can go to leftwinglock.com, you can go to dailyfaceoff.com and get maybe better accurate information than here, but this has the salaries right along with it. So does Daily Faceoff. And so I will use these in conjunction with each other some when I'm just trying to quickly double check. But another way that I will use this is when I show you my cash gamers here in a minute. I'll go into the stats page. I'll go to the last 4 weeks. I'll open up the filters. I'll turn them all off. And they've got all the teams here. I don't care who's playing on the slate tonight or not. I write them down, Toronto versus New York. So I'm going to start with Toronto. I'm going to sort by fantasy points over the last 4 weeks. Gives me about a 10-game sample. Ooh, 14 points. This is a big sample over 14 games. I would prefer a little bit smaller sample personally. But this is what you're looking at. 268 points. Austin Matthews is absolutely on fire. 235, 188, 186. These guys are on fire. 184, 173. Still, these are all great plays. That's why you'll find them in my article. You know, I mean, I could quote to you 9 goals, 7 assists, 2 goals, 10 assists, whatever. It doesn't matter. All I'm telling you is I've looked at the numbers. They're great plays. Okay? It doesn't really matter necessarily who scored more goals, who scored more fantasy points, blah, blah, blah. Down here, we'll drop off somewhere around the 150. But look at this. How many guys have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 guys to pick from. I can stack the 1, I can stack the 2, I can include some defensemen, I can stack the power plays. I can do any damn thing I want to get me some unique combinations of, you know, you can get creative. You can go back to this page here and you can look at Capana, Johnson, Matthews, or you can use Matthews, Marner, Tavares, or you can include Riley, Kadri, Matthews, Riley, Matthews, Marner. It doesn't freaking matter. Any of those combos is viable right now. Maybe not Kadri. He wasn't one of the 10 names. But any of those names is viable. Any of those combinations that correlates. For those of you that don't know what correlation is, really, really simple. This top line here correlates really, really well because this guy can pass to this guy who can pass to this guy and they can score, and that can get me both the assists and the goal off the same line. On Fanduel, it's 30-plus points in one event. That's big. I can also include a defenseman because defensemen are on the ice with the forwards. The defensemen overlap both lines of forwards. The defenseman, the first defensive pairing is not always out there with the top line. They're out there with the second line some, the third line some. They don't match up completely as 5-man units. They kind of run defensive pairings out because they're not going to put 2 defensive pairings out there on the ice at the same time. So one of the defensive pairings will be out there and these guys will kind of rotate through. So you do get a little bit of overlap that way. That's why these defensemen are great little connectors between top line and second line. So that's why I could run a Riley, Matthews, Tavares if I can afford it. Because I've got exposure to the power play 1 with both these guys. Austin Matthews and John Tavares are on the ice at the same time on the power play unit. They're not otherwise. So I can get goals from the second line if they do the scoring tonight. I can get goals from the first line if they do the scoring tonight. And I can overlap on the power play. And I can really overlap on the power play with Riley being out there on that first power play unit as well. All 3 are on the ice at the same time. And really, truly, most of the time, Riley's going to be out there with Matthews or with Tavares. And so I'm going to have 2 of the 3 on the ice almost at all times. So if a goal gets scored, I've likely got a piece of it, being that it probably came off of one of the top 2 lines, and I've probably got the goal or the assist most of the time. And I've got a shot at 2 of the 3 possible events, 2 assists and a goal. I've got a shot at 2 of the 3 of those with the defenseman because the defenseman and one of the centers is out there all the time. So that's a great, powerful stack. These are just ways we correlate. We want to make sure that when we're running GPP lineups for sure, that most of our lineups are somehow correlated. I can come all the way over here and say I like Columbus. I can run all 3 of these guys, top 3 guys, and then boom, 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 all 3 on the power play. Or I could take Atkinson, Panarin, and Foligno. And that's correlated. Even though Panarin and Foligno don't look correlated, because they look like they're on different scoring lines, they tie in with the power play 1, just like Matthews and Tavares did. Okay? I can put them down here with Werenski again. If I wanted to focus on the 2, I could run Bjorkstrand and Dubois with Anderson. And I got 3 guys on the power play too. I'm technically stacking the second power play unit and hoping to get lucky there. But I've got a couple of guys correlated at least on the ice at all times as well in Bjorkstrand and Dubois. These are ways we tie these lineups together, and optimizers have a very, very hard time doing this. You have to mostly hand build your lineups, or at least put them in the optimizer in a very controlled fashion, which we can do as a VIP at DFS Army. And you can double check your lineups to make sure they're correlated. Use pages like these to make sure they're correlated. I did that last night. Put 20 lineups in a 20 max quarters event on DraftKings, put in $5, pulled out $13. Why? I was correlated where other people were just running default optimizer lineups and screwing themselves. This is the stuff we teach you how to do in the Army. This is the stuff we're focused on teaching you to become a better player. If you need that kind of advantage, you need to become a VIP inside the Army. Very, very simple. Back to the slate at hand tonight. Matthews, you saw all these 10 guys. If I come down off of them and take, who were they playing? The Islanders? Not great, but I sort the same way. See, by comparison, if I'm looking for guys over 150 points in the last, say, 10 to 14 games, I'm not going to find a lot here. I find Pulak, who's playable, Brock Nelson, probably playable, maybe some outside shots at these guys, right? And that's about it. If I look down, where's Philly? Philly, let's do Philly next. Because I won't ruin any secrets in any of the stacks and stuff that I'm doing, but I'll show you who's in good spots. You know, Philly's in a pretty good spot tonight, and I'll show you why here in a minute when I dig into the matchup scores. But 265 and 262, Voracek and Couturier are on fire. Giroux's playing well. Lindblom's not bad. I think I called him Lindholm in the article. I'll have to go change that. Sanheim's one of my favorites. Dirt ass cheap, 185 points, 18.5 points over his last 10 games. Not really, actually. It's over his last 14 games. So it's not quite. It's about maybe, what 14, 15 points per game? That's awesome for a cheap guy. What I'm doing is I'm going into these numbers now, and I'm also going to show you my cash plays. He's going to make my cash list if points per dollar is over about 2.0 on Fanduel, about 0.8-ish on DraftKings, if you want to go that way. But look, over 2, under 2, one time. Over 2, over 2, over 2, over 2, under 2, two times in his last, 2, 4, 6, 8 games? 3 times in his last 10, so 70% of the time he's hitting value. That's cash safe. Most of the time he's going to do it. Is he going to do it tonight? I don't know. Most of the time he's going to do it. That's what you're after. You know, Couturier is another one. 2.0, 4.3, 0.4. So dud 1, dud 2. Oh, Jesus. Dud 3. In what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 games. 3 times in 15 games, 20% of the time, 80% of the time he's hitting value. Hello? Cash safe. That's why these guys end up on my cash list. So you'll see when you read the article who the plays are, who the players are. You'll know how I got the name. You'll see the logic behind it. You can duplicate and replicate the logic behind this. I'm a big fan of teach a man to fish. That's what I do. You come inside the Army, I'm going to try and teach you how to fish. I don't want to be attached to your hip I may love you, man. You may be the greatest guy in the world. And I do love all my VIPs, but I'm not here to handhold 1,000 people every single day. I'd go nuts in my messages, and my messages are busy enough as it is. All I'm really trying to do is teach you how to go find it yourself, go do it yourself, learn how to play the game yourself, and then we can talk more about this play versus that play as a whole, more conceptual stuff, as opposed to where do you go to find this, where do you go to find that. I'll show you. I'll show you exactly where I go to find all this stuff, and it all makes logical sense. And you can do it too because I'm cheap. I don't pay for a ton of subscriptions to other sites. I pay for some. I don't pay for a ton. Let's go through and show you why I like some of these teams. This is the goals for and the goals against, and I calculate this crap on my own. I put all of the teams in there, the homes and the aways, right? Toronto plays New York, Philly plays Columbus, right? And I add up all the goals for. I go back 10 games, and this is precise. I go back 10. I don't do 14 games. I get to 10, and I average it out. This is their last 10 games, what they've averaged. So your powerful offenses, Tampa Bay, Toronto, maybe some Boston, Florida, believe it or not, Philly. These are the 5 big offenses on the slate tonight. It varies from slate to slate. Tampa, you'd think you want to focus on them. Toronto, you'd think you want to focus on them, and maybe you do. But then we go to the defenses and we look at who's not allowing goals, who's giving the other team fits. And we see Toronto's playing okay defense. New York's playing great defense. And they just happen to be matching up against one of the better offenses. So what does that mean? It should mean Toronto's going to have a hard time. I don't see Toronto going in there and scoring 6 goals. They might, but instead of scoring, 3.7, they may score, if we ran this slate 100 times versus New York, it might be only like 2.8. And if it's 2.8, then guess what? We don't need to be there with our fantasy dollars paying those high prices because our ceilings are squashed. I'm not saying fade Toronto. I'm saying the risk is increased. Therefore, they should lean more GPPs with them rather than cash, chalky type stuff. Let everybody else go screw up. Everybody else who's too lazy to do the numbers, do the research, doesn't know how to maybe even do the research, and then just looks at it and goes, Toronto, I like Toronto. New York sucks. They're not necessarily a playoff team. Maybe they are. I don't know. I play DFS. I don't need to look at standings anymore. I know they were a target last year, and we loved targeting them last year. This year, they are not a target. They are an avoid. Looking at Philly, 3.5 going up against a 2.3. Uh-oh, that's not good. 4.3 going up against a 2.2 in Boston. That's not good. Well, where the hell's our soft spot? That's what the matchup score tells you. The matchup score takes 3.7 and adds it to 2.1 and gets you a 5.8. It takes a 2.6 and adds it to a 2.8 and gets you a 5.4. Who would believe that a 2.6 going against a 2.8 is the same damn near matchup as the Toronto going against the New York? This game, it should not be great for fantasy scoring. There's better out there. Focus elsewhere. Let's go pick the higher numbers in the matchup score because that's indicating a great offense against a bad defense. Right? So 6.5. Tampa Bay, still, even facing Boston, Tampa Bay is still a pretty good matchup. I don't know if I trust that. I almost trust this more. So I would even put Tampa Bay in a little bit of a GPP. I think Tampa Bay is a very sneaky fade tonight. I think it could burn you. I think they could wind up great. But I also think there's a chance that this does not provide the fantasy goodness that people are going to see in this type of number. And I think that it's going to maybe be a spot where we can fade them and bank on Boston playing great defense. And if they hold Tampa Bay to some kind of a 2-1 game, you're going to make out like a bandit if you don't have any of those guys in your lineup. I think it's worth the chance. In your tournaments, I think in cash games you might want some exposure to them just in case. 6.8 is the highest number on the slate. 6.8 and 6.5 are by far the higher numbers on the slate. So you wouldn't go wrong if you took Florida and Tampa and stacked them in cash. But if you focused on Florida, who's a 3.5, going up against a 3.3, 3.3 is not exactly soft, kind of middle of the road. I mean, your soft spot's the LA Kings defense, but Dallas can't score for shit. So that's not helping anything really because this offense can't hit an open net, much less one with a goalie in it. Now, I would tend to think Dallas is going to score more goals against a softer defense than maybe Tampa will against a great defense. So I do kind of like Dallas tonight. Just kind of showing you where my thoughts go. But Florida, with the 3.5 and the 3.3 here at a 6.8, is where you should be focused on the slate tonight. Power play matchup. Not going to tell you how I get that number. That's VIP only. If you want to know that one, I'll show you exactly how I do it, but you got to be a VIP. The low number is good though. Green's good, red's bad. Bad power play, for Vancouver, good power play for Florida. That's not all that goes into that number, but this is telling me when I see a great number on the slate here for the matchup score and then a great power play matchup, I like them even more. Does it mean that, a 5.8 and then the second lowest number of 21 here makes me want Toronto? Maybe a little. I might dig into some numbers and see how many penalties per game New York gives up, see how often Toronto's going to be on the power play, and then I might like it a little bit more. But I also am going to have right after that going through my head is going to be Toronto's on a road back-to-back. I think they're on a road back-to-back. Were they on the road last night? No, they were at home. Edmonton came to Toronto. But were they, they're traveling anyway. They're on a back-to-back. New York's an elite defense right now. I don't know if the power play matchup is enough to make me so giddy that I turn around and say, oh, all of a sudden I love Toronto. And that's why this slate is a bit of a pickle today, because I believe that you should be focused on Florida, and then I think it's pretty wide open. You can focus on Dallas, you can focus on Columbus, you can focus on Philly, you can focus a little bit on Toronto, a little bit on Tampa Bay, but they scare me a little bit. And I don't think they're going to scare the public. I think the public's going to go right back to the well. And the public may prove right, and that's fine. But I think I'm going to have a lot more leverage, especially in GPPs, if I fade both of those off for the most part and include them in very little of what I do. And instead, just come cranking out with some of these other teams and hope these two are tired. Hope these two match up against elite defenses and have bad nights. And these other teams maybe catch one of these other teams that goes off and makes or breaks the slate. That's the game plan for tonight. That's what I'm hoping for. If you guys want more information like this, you got to become VIPs. You got to get in there. Hit the link. Hit the code CHOP, C-H-O-P. 20% off, grandfathered over the life of your membership. Enter March sweeps if you want to try us out and you want to gamble a little bit and take advantage of the opportunity for me to buy your membership for you. Love to have you inside. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll keep putting this content out as often as I possibly can. But again, the best access to me is inside the coaching forums at dfsarmy.com. You have all access to me there, not just when I feel like making a video or when I can get out here with some time to make a video. We might come back today with an NBA video. We might not. I don't really know. We're 20 minutes in. I've got a crap load of work I got to go do. So I'm going to run up out of here and hopefully talk to you guys off and on throughout the day in Slack as we discuss more of the hockey slate, maybe some basketball plays, whatever it is that we want to discuss, and turn you guys into better players at dfsarmy.com. Take care, guys. We'll talk to you very, very soon.